So guys, thanks so much for joining today's webinar. So just by way of introduction, my name is Christy, and I'm a customer success manager here at Deputy. So my role really here is to make sure you guys feel empowered when using the platform through our webinars, as well as, any content that we are producing. So for today's webinar, as I'm sure you guys are aware, we're going to be discussing scheduling in Deputy. So we're going to cover the basics of how to add different rosters, as well as cover any hidden gems and tips and tricks in the platform. So through today's conversation, I hope you guys will have a better understanding of how to set up scheduling, automate your processes, and we're also going to share some best practices as well. So if you guys have any questions along the way as the webinar is running, please feel free to use the Q&A section, not the chat, to ask them. And along the way, Gary, our technical learning designer, who many of you recognize, will be answering them. So we'll have some time towards the end as well for Q&A. And as always, we'll be sharing a recording of the webinar as well as the deck, so you can go through it for future use. So before we get into the platform, I just want to briefly summarize what scheduling, just in case there's any newcomers who may not be familiar with what this is. So scheduling in Deputy, simply put, is how you, as a manager, manage your employees' rosters. And so that's a bit of a tongue twister, but when you're managing, your employees' shifts, you use scheduling to decide when they start and stop, on what days they'll be working, and you have visibility as well over who's working what days when and in what areas. So as a manager, you'll be able to control all of this and take different things to account so you have the most efficient or best schedule possible. So before we get into it, I'd like to highlight a few different things that come with the basics of scheduling. So they're here floating around in this bubble, or in these bubbles rather, but some of them include locations, training tags, areas, shift types, templates, stats, and of course, our mobile app. So today on our walkthrough, we're going to be covering these things. And, over the presentation, we'll have some recaps as well, so you'll be reminded of what we discussed. So how does this look in the platform? So right now you're looking at my Deputy screen as a manager would in their desktop in the web portal. So this is how managers can schedule shifts and basically do the system admin work. So just a few notes here. I am using Google Chrome, which is our preferred browser. You can use Firefox, Safari, what have you, but we don't support Internet Explorer. So if you or any other managers are scheduling shifts for your employees, I'd recommend you use one of those approved browsers. So on the right-hand side, you'll also see my mobile phone, and that is how you would see the app on your phone as a manager or an employee. So later on in the webinar, we're also going to see how a manager can assign shifts, see upcoming shifts, and how they can claim shifts as well through the mobile app. All right. So if we go back to our web browser right here, we are currently in the scheduling tab. When you go into the Deputy website, you have a few different tabs available, and the scheduling tab is where we do all of our scheduling work. So let me just close this real quick. So when you're on the screen itself, you see a few different things. So on the left-hand side, we see all of our employees who are in this location. We see our squares across the screen. These are our different shifts that we have available. And there's also a legend at the bottom. So that'll indicate to you, whether a shift is published, unpublished, open shifts, if there are any warnings from the system, etc. All right. So if we start right here at the top left-hand side, you'll see a locations button. And this will allow you to toggle through your different locations that you've set up in the platform. So these may be areas of your business or actual locations within, your business. So if we click on this, we'll be able to see a few different options available to us. We'll be able to see all locations, and when you click on this, it'll show you all the employees across all locations. You can choose specific locations or areas as well. So if you scroll down, you'll see that I have a few different locations associated. So if I click on all locations, give that some time to load, I'll be able to see all the locations across, all the employees across all my locations. So this is a pro tip, and sometimes customers will ask me, is there a way that I can see a specific area across all locations? And the answer to that is yes. So what I do is click on all locations like I did earlier, and then I go back to the search button, And then I type in the area that I want to see. So for example, I want to see all shifts across the front desks in all locations. So I would type in front desk, and we can filter by area name right here. And once I click on that, I'll be able to see the front desk across both of my locations. And so this is really helpful because sometimes you want like a high level visibility over your front desk, and you don't want to have to go through each location and schedule. It's kind of, time consuming. So here we can just see our front desk. We can drag and drop the people from the employee side, and we can roster our front desk areas like that. So if I navigate back to my location view, I also want to point out these two views right here. So this view is how you can see things across different weeks. So if I clicked on this, I'd be able to see shifts in past weeks. I'd also be able to see shifts in future weeks. So that's pretty straightforward, and as always, if you are at a different week in the month, you can also jump to your current week, and that'll show you the week that you're in right now. We can also change the way that we view this sheet. So right now I've got the view in area and week. So what that simply means is that I'm able to view all my areas as well as the shifts that live within them. So as you can see here, we've got front desk, nurse, security, etc., and all the shifts associated with that. I will also note that we can view these across 2 weeks and a month. So if you really want like a high level view of what's going on across, across your business, you can do that as well with areas. But let's just say that I want to see things, a bit more Excel style. I don't want to see all the areas. I just want to see my employees and the shifts they're working on. What we can do is view by employee. And if I choose week, for example, I'll be able to see all my employees on the left-hand side, the dates at the top, and all the shifts that they're working for the rest of the week. So you'll see here, Gary's got working at the front desk for the rest of the week. Something great about the employee week view as well is that you can see your employees' unavailability or annual leave that they've taken. So it gives you a really good overview of who's doing what when and in what areas they're working as well. So here, if you wanted to add a shift, simply click the plus sign again, and you can add a shift to these folks. So if I scroll down, you'll be able to see Don Draper is unavailable this weekend, and Joan Holloway is taking annual leave this weekend as well. So I'm going to share a pro tip as well. So if you ever want to make changes to one specific person and you're like, you've got tons of employees and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know where this person is. How do I find them? So a pro tip is to use the employee week view and search for that person in the search bar. So let's just say I want to look for Gary. So if I type in Gary's name, he would pop up and I would be able to schedule shifts for him. Now, in this scenario, I don't have that many employees, so it's a bit easier to find. But if you're ever in that situation where you need to find that one person, you can use this search function to find them as well. All right. So if I navigate back to area and week as well, I also want to share one more thing. So within this view and this search section, you can also search for people using training tags. So training tags, as I'm sure you guys are aware, are how you can set up different training like first aid. If you have any requirements for people, you can use training tags as well. But I really like to recommend people use training tags for more than just the training tags. Within Deputy, it is any way that you want to categorize people. So whether or not they prefer to work a day shift, whether or not they prefer to work a night shift, if they have key card access, all these different things can be used with training tags, and you can categorize your employees in this way. And you can search for them in the search bar. So that makes it really easy. Let's just say if you are trying to staff your day shift or your night shifts, and you type in something within the search bar, and you can find those folks who have those preferences. So I'll show you how this works as an example. So within my business here, I have a training tag called Can Administer Needles. And so if I go to the search bar on the left-hand side right here, and I type in Can Administer, and I'll give that a second to load, all these individuals are able to administer needles. So for example, if I clicked on them, you'd be able to see the training tags associated with them. And so that way, it just makes it really easy to drag and drop them into the shifts where you want them, and you can add them to whatever area is necessary. So that's a pro tip from me to you. And I really, really like this because it just makes things a lot easier if you have different ways of categorizing people. All right, let's just clear that out for a second. And so far we've gone over the locations, the dates, the views, as well as different ways that we can utilize the search function within the scheduling section. So now let's get to the important part and the fun part, I think, which is adding shifts to our scheduling page. So if we want to start creating shifts for our schedule, all we have to do is click on the plus sign. So the plus sign's right here. And if we did that, we have a few different options available to us. So if I click on this right here, we can see an empty shift, which is simply a placeholder. There's no person associated with it. In the future, you can drag and drop a person into that empty shift, but really it's like a placeholder to kind of cement what you want as a roster in your schedule. We've also got an open shift, and that simply is a shift that people can claim. And so within the deputy system, if you have preferred individuals or training tags associated with an area, if you create an open shift, only eligible folks can claim this. And so that's deputy's way of safeguarding and just making sure that it's not a complete free-for-all where everyone can just kind of go for it if they want to. And we can also assign these shifts to specific people as well. So that would be your typical employee who wants to work or needs to work in that area. If you've clicked on the wrong area as well, please note that you can also choose a different area. For example, I didn't want to staff someone in the front desk. I actually wanted to do security. I can do that as well. So here you have your standard shift information, like your start date, your start time, your finish time, your meal break, as well as any notes you want to add. So these notes are visible to the employee. So just to note, if you want to share anything regarding the shift, you can put that in there. So that's one way to add a shift in the deputy platform. You can also drag and drop people into this section. So for example, I can just drag and drop different people into these areas from the left-hand side. And that makes it really easy. Or if what I wanted to do is, I want to staff, let's just say Michael as a nurse, hopefully he's qualified. But if I want to staff Michael as a nurse across all these different days, what I can do is simply add him in. Okay, he's not, that's fine. I can drag and drop someone into this section, hit the copy button, like this, hit C on my keyboard, and then go into a different day and press V on my keyboard as well. And so what that does is it, saves you time when you're scheduling. And so if you have a bunch of empty shifts, open shifts, instead of having to, drag and drop or add a new thing each time, you can just hit the C and V buttons, and that'll paste the shifts wherever you want. So that just makes it a lot more efficient and a little bit faster as well. So one quick note. So as I've been dragging and dropping these employees into the shifts, their numbers and dollars associated with them have been increasing. So within Deputy, we have the ability to track how many hours a person is working, as well as the spend associated with them. So if you click on the stats button right here at the top right there, you'll be able to see the hours associated with a person, as well as the total hours, the total wage, and any other statistics associated with kind of your business. So a cost benefit analysis or, any details associated with the pay as well as the hours worked. So we're not going to go over this in heavy detail today, but if you do want to learn a bit more, we do have a business insights webinar, which is on our training page, and that's deputy.com/training. And so if you want to check that out, please feel free. We'll also share a link to that at the end of the webinar, so you guys can check that out and see how that might work for your business. All right, so we're going to take a break right now, and I'm going to take a look at the Q&A section. So Gary, are there any questions that we haven't answered that need answering right now?
Hey, Christy. There aren't any that I haven't answered, but there was a really good one that I just want to point out visually that Jamie asked. Oh, and as soon as I've said that, two more questions have come in. But just to cover Jamie's question quickly, he was asking about sorting employees on the left-hand side on various things. And yes, you can change how you filter the staff on the left to do that. And it's quite hidden, so I appreciate it's not obvious, but there is a little drop-down button just above where it says open shifts on the left there. Christy, if you can just tap that for us. The other one on the right, that one there. And those are all the different ways that you can order your staff on the left-hand side there. So the most commonly used ones would be things like total hours. So if you click total hours and then click it again, it just switches around top to bottom, who's got the most hours, and then that descending, or the opposite if you wanted to see, for example, who haven't I scheduled yet and things like that.
All right, cool. And I see Scott has asked a question about how to create a new training tag. This can be done within the People tab. So the People tab right here has all your employees. And what you can do is go into a specific employee's profile, create a training tag. And once you've done that, you can apply that training tag to different types of employees as well. You can also do it in bulk. So if you were in the People tab, just check those folks off, do bulk actions, and add the training tags to those people who need it. All right, cool. Well, I think we should get back to the content of the webinar. Now we've answered a few questions. So I want to talk about templates and our smart scheduling. So when you want to build out a structure for your business, I really recommend that you add empty shifts because those are placeholders, like I said, that can fill up slots in your schedule. And moving forward, you can save that out as a template, and you can also autofill it with our smart scheduling options. So I'll show you guys an example right here, and I'll close the stats page. If I were to create a bunch of empty shifts here, so I'll click on empty, like I did earlier, hit C on my keyboard, and I press V a few times. You'll see these empty shifts start to pop up in different areas. I'll just add a few, for example. And let's just say this is my perfect sort of schedule, whether, for your business, if it's a seasonal type of thing, if it's, a holiday type of thing, you might have different schedules for different times of the year. And what Deputy can do is save these out as templates. So it makes it really easy for you in the future, and you don't have to start from scratch each time. So let's just say this is my perfect schedule. What I can do is go to this button right here next to copy shifts, click on it, save the template out, and I can give it a name. So the date today is the 29th. So I can say 29th of April schedule. If I hit the enter button, that'll save that out, and I can add a description if necessary. For example, winter schedule for, I don't know, something like that. But you can save that out how it suits your business. And then in the future, let's just say you're a few weeks ahead and you're like, okay, I don't want to start from scratch. I already have my perfect template. You can load it from all the things that you've saved. So we just made one, and it has all the different people in there, as well as, the date range and maybe the dollars associated as well. So let's just say I've created my perfect schedule, but I have all these empty shifts, and either you can drag and drop people into those empty shifts, but perhaps you don't want to do that. As part of Deputy's smart scheduling, what we can do is use the autofill button to fill empty shifts. So if I click on this, and I can take a look at a few parameters, for example, look at the cost, equal hours for everybody, learn my preferences from past schedules, or how long I want to wait, I can click on autofill shifts. And as it's loading, the Deputy autofill function takes into account any preferences you may have set up and does a cost-benefit analysis as to who should be filling these shifts. So if you have, like I said earlier, any preferred folks, training requirements in your areas, or you've already created your perfect schedule before, the Deputy system will learn from that and fill out your blank templates and fill those shifts for you on your behalf. So you'll see here, now our empty shifts are filled with all our different employees who are eligible or appropriate for those roles. And that's really easy for us. So one more thing, let's just say I auto-filled my schedule, and I'm like, oh gosh, I made a big mistake. I don't want this. And I want to get rid of all these employees. You don't have to go through each one to delete them. We do have a few different bulk options available to you. So if you click on the options button right here, what we can do is we can either remove all employees, remove empty shifts, delete all shifts, bulk update certain areas. And these are just a few of the big bulk options that are available to you. So you don't have to manually do all these steps every single time. So I think that's really helpful just in case you make a mistake, you want to clear out your schedule and start over. Don't go through the whole process of deleting each one individually. Simply remove all shifts and you can start from scratch. All right. So now we've gone through the setting up of our shifts. What we can do is also publish shifts. So that is what you do to notify your employees that these shifts are available and this is what you want them to work. So what we do is we just simply click on this publish shifts button right here. And we have a few different options available to us. So we can publish updates only. That's my preferred method. So that simply means that anyone who's already been scheduled won't receive a notification. We can choose the areas we want to publish. That'll be the areas within your business. We can choose the notifications. Personally, I prefer email and smartphone push notifications. One, because you hit your email as well as your mobile app. So that will go out as a push notification. And also, it just makes more sense to have two things at the same time just to cover all your bases. So we go ahead and publish this. As an employee, the folks who are scheduled at this time would receive notifications that they are going to go to work. All right. So if we navigate back to our presentation, we'll go over a recap of what we just did. So on the scheduling basics, what we did was make changes to what's visible on the screen. So using areas to make changes and things like that. We viewed schedule by weeks, 2 weeks, a month. We changed the way that we viewed the screen. We also filtered by area across locations, employees, and training tags. So these are ways to classify different folks and use whatever classifications we do have to filter through the scheduling screen. We added empty, open, and employee shifts. We also used templates and automated scheduling. And we also published shifts, and we used notifications as well to make sure that our employees know to show up to work. Within the tips and tricks, things that we may not have known about the Deputy platform, we searched for specific employees via the employee view. So that was the Excel style spreadsheet that we saw with all their employees and their shifts. We used training tags to categorize and search for employees. So that's really helpful if you have people who are have specific shift preferences or have different types of information associated with them, like key card access. We used CNV shortcuts to make scheduling faster and more efficient, so that we simply copied and pasted shifts that way. We used our settings to remove all employees to clear a schedule. So that was just a way to make things a bit easier so we don't have to delete things from scratch each time. And we also used the stats bar, and we learned a bit more about business insights that way. So that's a bit of a recap over our scheduling and our tips and tricks. And now we'll go into the way that it looks on the mobile app. So if I navigate back to my screen right here, right now you'll see on my phone the mobile app, and this is how you would see it as a system admin. So right here, I have myself set up as the system admin of my business. And so there are a few things that are available to me. So let's take a look at the bottom right here. We've got different options available to us. So we have our newsfeed. So that is simply, where we would send out notifications or message blasts to our employees. We've got our people tab, our schedule tab, our dashboard, and the me tab. So if we take a look at the schedule tab, which is what we're interested in, we're able to see all the different shifts that our employees are working across the business. So at the top here, you'll see areas like front desk, nurse. If I scroll down, you'll also see security and all the different folks who are working the shift. All right, so within the actual app itself, there are a few different ways we can filter this. So the first one would be to pull down this little calendar right here on that gray bar you see, and we can shift between previous and future weeks. So if I want to click on a previous week, I clicked on the 22nd, I can see all the shifts that are associated with that time. And if I click on future weeks, I can see all the shifts associated with that time as well. So that's pretty helpful if you want to see, what's going on in the past or the future. And what's nice is, for example, I'll just go back to my future week. I can also publish the shifts that are pending in future weeks from my phone. So typically you would do this from your computer, as you know, our web host is a lot more robust than a mobile app, but it is helpful that you can do this from your mobile phone. And that just, makes things a little bit easier if you're on the go when you just want to quickly approve any shifts that you've set up along the way. So if I pop this back out, if I want to take a look at the different locations across my business, I can also do so. So at the top here, you'll see that I have my retirement home in Mayfair. But if I clicked on that little downwards arrow, you can see that I can choose between a separate location as well. So if I clicked on this, I don't have any shifts there, but you'll be able to see different locations that you have within your business. One more view that you can choose is to change between a week-long view and a scheduled view. So the week-long view is what we see right now. But at the top left-hand side, you'll see this little calendar button. And if I clicked on that, instead of seeing a week-long view, I would be able to see all the shifts that are associated with my day today. And from there, of course, you can move forward to different days, go to past days, and just see what's going on. If there's ever a scenario where you need to publish a shift from your phone, you can also create a new one. So on the top right-hand side, you see this plus button right here. If I clicked on this, you'll see all the different options available to me. I can add a shift, copy shifts, import shifts, load a template, autofill even. But let's just say I wanted to add a shift. I can choose the area associated with them. It's got all my color coding too, which is quite nice. I can choose the date, the time, the meal break, as well as the employee, and add any shift notes. So basically, it's the same kind of situation as you would see with our web host, but it's on your phone and just a little bit, if you're on the go and you need to do it, you can do so as well. All right. So that's the scheduling tab in the mobile app. But let's just say I wanted to take a look at shifts associated with me as an employee, my timesheets, things like that. You navigate to the Me button on the bottom of the screen. So that's the little smiley face. If I click on that, I have a few different options available to me as well. I can look at my upcoming shifts, and that's just the shifts that I'm scheduled to work. Something really helpful for this is that I'm able to see my weekly total as well. So as an employee or a manager, if I want to see how many hours I am working or need to work, it's a nice reminder at the bottom of the screen to see your weekly total. I can also see any available shifts. And typically, it would show you any open shifts that are available to claim. So I don't have any at the moment, but if I was eligible for any open shifts that are available, I would be able to claim those in this screen. And lastly, I can take a look at my timesheets. So these are shifts that I've worked already and are pending approval or have been approved. So you'll be able to see the weekly totals across each one. And let's just say I clicked on one of these, I'll be able to see the details that was associated with that shift. So what date, what time I worked, where, my area as well, any rest breaks I had, meal breaks, and any information associated with that. If my manager left any shift notes or comments, I can see that as well as the history of my shift. So that's pretty much it from the mobile app in a nutshell. There's a lot of different options you can see as a manager as well as an employee to see, scheduling shifts, as well as taking a look at any shifts that are associated with me and anything I need to work in the future. All right. So lastly, when it comes to scheduling, I just want to talk a little bit about scheduling settings. And so the scheduling settings are the rules that dictate your scheduling within the Deputy platform. So I'm sure many of you know how to get here already, but we would go here through our locations, choose any location, click on Edit Settings, and click on the scheduling button right here. Typically, you'd have, if you want to change any other information about your location, you would do so on these different tabs, but today we're going to look at scheduling. So within the scheduling section of settings, there are a few different things we can look at. So we can take a look at when the week starts, the typical shift duration, whether or not your employees get meal breaks. I have had a question before when a customer wanted no meal breaks. And so you can set that to 0 right here if you'd like to. And there are a few different options available to you as well. But really what we're interested in and what I think is quite important are these 3 sections right here. So I scroll down. We get questions on this a lot. These 3 sections I think are quite important. So the first one is creating the ability to allow employees to swap shifts. So if we turn this on, this simply allows employees to swap shifts. For example, if I am unable to work my shift, I can swap with another employee who has a different shift. So Deputy does take into account training tags and preferred employees to ensure both employees are qualified for that shift. So for example, it would be kind of like a one-to-one switch. The second is require manager approval before a swap is finalized. So that relates to the previous toggle that we just looked at, and that simply makes sure that a manager must be able to approve the swap before it's finalized. So the manager in question who would be approving this would be either manager who scheduled myself or my colleague for shifts that we want to swap. And so this toggle is dependent on the first one. And so from there, if you have the first one on, you'll be able to turn on the second one as well. And lastly, the toggle that we want to be able to turn on or off is the ability to allow employees to offer shifts. So in this scenario, an employee can't work a shift. If they can't work a shift, they're able to offer this to others to claim. So this is different than a shift swap, as an employee wouldn't be able to swap with a specific person. It wouldn't be like a one-to-one. It would be more so I'm unable to work this shift and I'm offering it to people to take on. So unless someone accepts the shift offer, the original employee who is scheduled will remain responsible for the shift. So let's just say I put this offer out and no one takes it, I still have to go work that shift. And in this scenario, the manager's approval is not required, but managers will get a notification if the offered shift is accepted. So these three, I think, are pretty important just because a lot of customers will ask us whether or not employees have the autonomy to kind of create these changes themselves. And as a manager, sometimes you're not always available to, approve these sorts of things. So if you give your employees the options to make these changes themselves, it does cut out a bit of your time and makes things a little bit easier for you as well. All right. So just a quick recap of what we went over. In our mobile view, we took a look at the scheduling tab. We saw weekly and daily views, locations, and the ability to add shifts. We took a look at upcoming shifts, so what I have scheduled, available shifts, things that I can claim, as well as timesheets, so past shifts I worked, as well as details associated with that. Within our scheduling settings, we also took a look at allowing employees to swap shifts, requiring manager approval before a shift swap is finalized, as well as allowing employees to offer shifts. And so that is it for our scheduling masterclass. So we hope you left with a better understanding of deputy scheduling and the different ways that we can utilize the platform. Now, if we have any extra time, we can answer some questions in the Q&A and see what feedback you guys have there.
Hey, Christy. So yeah, I've ticked a few questions that I'd like to cover live, please, because if it's okay, I'd like to jump into the platform so that they make sense for people. But there's one that two people have asked. So if you wouldn't mind just resharing your deputy account, and can you just remind people how they set training tags for their staff?
So we're going to go over training tags right now. What we're going to do is navigate to our people tab. And we'll choose an employee. So we'll choose Betty. She's my favorite one. And if we click on Betty's profile, we see a few different options on the left-hand side, like shifts, timesheets, unavailable, etc. But what we want to do is edit her profile. So if we click on edit her profile and we take a look at job information, we'll be able to see the training tags associated with her. So let's just say I wanted to add a new one, like prefers day. If I click on the enter button on my keyboard, that creates a training tag right then and there. And if I edit it, this is really awesome, by the way, I can change the training date, the expiry date. So if you have any certifications or anything where you want to make sure that people are renewing at a certain time, you can use the expiry date. We can add comments and we can add any files as well. So certifications, things like that. But after I create that and I update the training and I save this out, and it's called Prefers Day. Just give that a second to save. What I can do now is apply this training tag to a bunch of different people. So you see here, I've got Prefers Day, but if Bob and Carrie need this as well, what I can do is choose my bulk actions, add training. And if I type in prefers day, that'll pop up. I can save that out. And now both all of Betty, Bob, and Carrie have the prefers day training tag associated with them. So if I go back to my scheduling tab, and they might be working in different locations, so let me choose all locations. If I clicked on the search bar and I type in prefers day, give that a few seconds to load, we'll see Bob, Carrie, and Betty all pop up on the left-hand side. So like I was saying earlier, it's a really great way if I want to schedule things for like my day shift, and I know these folks prefer the day shift. Now I have all their contact info on the left-hand side, and I can just drag and drop them into my schedule.
Great stuff. Thank you. David has a question. Is it possible to input information for different departments like house numbers or restaurant reservations into the schedule? Yes, there's a couple of different ways you can do that, David. Christy, if you can just click on any day, say the Sunday, and just actually click on the date itself.
Sure.
And if you just scroll down a little bit, you can see what's happening today. And there's a box there where you can actually enter some notes. And whatever you put in there will be visible for whoever is a supervisor and above who has the view of the schedule. All they need to do is hover over each of the day once something's in there. So if you click save, you'll see there's a little eye icon. I mean, it's pretty small. You have to know to look for it, but that's where you can actually attach comments to a day. Now, if it's specific to an area, for example, then I would recommend using the shift notes. So you can put any data that you like. You can write war and peace in an actual shift, which will show per person as well. And if you're worried that you might have to do that, 100 times for multiple different shifts, then you can actually add shift notes once to one person and then do a bulk update to apply it to several others. So that's how you do that one. Carla has a question about can the schedule, I think she means, can the schedule be locked so a manager only sees their employees? Yes. I mean, a manager who's a supervisor or a location manager will only ever see people who also have that same location in their profile. That answers that one quickly. But if you meant the other thing, I think you might mean, which is you don't want your staff to see each other so that only the manager sees the staff and the staff don't see each other, then that's actually a setting you can amend in the locations tab. So Christy, if you wouldn't mind just heading to locations and edit settings, and then scheduling is the default one it pops up to. And if you just scroll down a bit, we should be able to see allow employees to view each other's schedule. So by default, yes, it's on allow all, but you can actually block visibility so that staff can only see what's happening today, for example, but see everybody else's shifts today in their location, or you can completely block it so that the staff members only ever know what they're doing themselves day to day. So you've got some options there. You're right for a few more questions, Christy.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Jordana is asking, thanks for your question. Is there a way to send an invitation to the employees other than email by mobile, for example? Yeah, we've got a fairly new update to that, actually. Christy, if you pop to the People tab, and then if you click Add People, top right, add single person, that's fine. Can you see there's Invite with Link at the top there and Generate Link? This is really useful if you want the staff to kind of onboard themselves, really. So when you generate a link there, you get a unique URL that's completely unique to your business. And you can perhaps copy and paste that in your WhatsApp group, for example, because assuming they're not on Deputy yet, they won't have the newsfeed. So you could send that as a group email or a WhatsApp group, something like that, so that the staff can click on there and then they are automatically going to onboard themselves with their name and email, etc. So that should help there. Caroline, this is a good question, Caroline. If a staff member has 2 different shifts on the same day that run on from the other, do they need to clock out and back in again? Not necessarily. You can have it so that you will get 2 different timesheets, but if you only want them to, for example, clock into the first one and clock out at the end of the second one, so there's no like in and out in between, as you say, then yes, you need to add an extension, which is also in the location settings. So Christy, thank you so much. You're flying around the system here for me. Locations, edit settings, and this one's hidden away. It's in notifications and integrations. And if you just click on search for me there and type in split, this one here, once you activate this one, if someone has multiple shifts in the same day, then this will gather them up just by the start of the first one and the end of the second one, so they don't have to clock in and out in between. Okay, let's see. Oh, Christy, can you show, John has a question. Can you please show me how to edit an existing area or to create a new area, please?
By all means. So what we do is our location settings, and really whenever you think of, how do I change areas of my my business or, settings that I see, 9 times out of 10, it will be in location settings. So if we want to make any edits to existing areas, navigate to locations, location settings like we did earlier, and click on the areas tab. So here we'll be able to see all the different areas that we've created already, or we can create new ones. So if I wanted to create a test area, you'll see that pop up at the bottom right here. What's great about the areas is we can, for example, if I click on front desk here, we can change the name, we can change the color of it, which I really like. But more importantly, we can add different things like training requirements and preferred employees. So earlier, I was mentioning as with autofill or shift swapping or anything like that, Deputy will take into account all these different factors, like whether or not an individual is trained or whether or not you have preferred employees. This would be the area to make those changes. So I can add my training requirements, like my elder care certificate, prefers day. You may have seen earlier, I had a little snafu where I tried to add Michael as a nurse, but he wasn't trained with, these sorts of requirements that my nurses do have. So that's great because that's Deputy's way of safeguarding you from giving someone a shift that they're not really qualified to do. So if you have folks with really rigid training requirements, like a nurse perhaps, Deputy will kind of give you a warning and stop you from scheduling in someone who's not qualified to do that role. And you can create those qualifications through the area section right here.
Excellent. Thank you. We've got a good question here from Josephine saying, how do I cancel upcoming shift notifications? That's in a similar area to where we were previously with the setting up the split, the timesheets. So Christy, if you can just jump to notifications and integrations. If you're getting alerts that you don't want, there are some that are enabled by default. So all you need to do is come into here and click on edit against any of the ones that you want to get rid of, and then just simply delete it. One extra tip here is just to make sure once you've done this, just to save the page. The locations tab is the only page where I would recommend doing a manual pressing of a save. Everywhere else on the platforms, like auto save, specifically schedule page. But yeah, that's where you can switch off or, of course, as well, enable your notifications. All right. Kalpna, sorry if I've mispronounced your name, but you have an excellent question. They say, is there a way to publish shifts for one employee at a time? Yes, this is a nifty little trick, actually. On the schedule page, all you need to do to do this one person at a time is to make sure, first of all, that you're on employee view. Okay, because the best way to filter people individually certainly is on the employee view. And then if you type someone's name into this box here, you'll see that only that person or If you've got two people with the same name, then
apologies. Let me find someone better.
then you'll only see their shifts. Now, you'll see everything else on the page here. If these weren't published, for example, the number of outstanding shifts would change. So this page is always reflective of what's currently in view. So if you publish now, it'll only publish these ones. Okay, it will ignore everything that's not in view. Okay, so that's the same with someone else was asking actually in the questions about deleting. They were worried that if they press delete all shifts, it's going to delete things outside of the current view, and that's not the case. It's what you see is what is affected. So
that's a good point. So basically, if you want to make any changes to the screen, whatever you see that's visible, those changes will apply to that section only. So for example, if I clicked on delete all shifts, it would delete Betty's shifts only. And so similarly, if I get rid of Betty for a sec, and I change this to an area view, let's just say I only want to make changes to 2 specific areas, and there's no filter that really applies to both. What I can do is hide other areas that are not, applicable, that this change wouldn't apply to, and whatever is visible, the changes will only apply to those. So whether it's deleting, bulk updates, anything like that, it'll only apply to what's visible on the screen.
Brilliant, thank you. Got another really good question here. The questions today, I have to say, are just absolutely spot on and very poignant. Josh has a question. Can you change the default shift time? So he has an 8 hours set as default, but he wants it from 12 till 8 p.m., for example. Is this possible? Yes, you can have the default shift time of your choosing, and you choose this in the location settings again. And this is obviously per location setting. So it's on the scheduling tab of the location settings, and it's here. So it's your default shift duration. So for example, if you want it 12 till 8, then you would leave that as 8 hours, and just ensure that your I think it's actually the open and close times will denote what the start time is.
Yeah, and so you can change that in the general tab where you have your operating hours.
That's it. So yeah, don't worry too much that it might not necessarily be your opening and closed hours. Oh, actually, they've changed the wording. It's called operating hours now. Okay, well, every day is a new little change, but that's how you would get your fixed shift. So what that means now is that if you create an empty shift somewhere, that will be your default shift. All right. Ashley Carter has a question. Is there a way to update availability? For example, somebody can only work Monday, Wednesday, Friday. How can they do that so that it shows up every week? Also, can a manager do that? Yes to both. Yeah, Christy, can you just run through what it looks like to add repeating unavailability?
Sure. So if I navigate to my People tab once more, and this is where we would make any employee changes in the platform. For example, if I want to click on Betty again, and she's unavailable on certain days, what I can do is click on the unavailability section on the left-hand side here of the screen. And from here, I can add new unavailability. So I can add unavailability that repeats. And so I can say every 1 week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Betty is unable to work. And so it never ends. I can add a reason. And if I add that, anytime you're scheduling Betty, if you try to book her in on a Tuesday or Thursday, the system will say, no, you can't do that. And if we were to take a look at the employee view, so that Excel style, the little square where Betty is would say unavailable, and you wouldn't be able to drop a shift in over her name.
Excellent. Thank you. Jamie has asked plenty of questions. Thanks for all your questions, Jamie. You've got a good one again. It's, can clocking in and out be deactivated? Yes. So again, that's on the location settings, but this time it's in the timesheet section. And you've got options here, really. I mean, it's not just a simple can clock in and out be deactivated. You can say, do you want certain ways of clocking in and out to be enabled or not? If for example, a common one is we don't want our staff using their smartphones. So that's just in the locations tab, and then it's a case of edit settings. There we go. Timesheets, and here they are. Here are the options. So you can just disable all of these top sort of half a dozen or so, and this will stop that.
Yeah, I would really recommend if you are curious about scheduling settings, timesheet settings, go into your locations tab, take a look at your location settings, and do explore the scheduling and timesheets options that are available to you. There are a few different ones that you might not have even thought of that you want. And if you just take a look at them, see whether or not they apply to your business, you can turn them on or off. All right. Well, Gary, I think we should send out our poll now, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, we do have a few more questions left, and I will absolutely endeavor to. Let me see if there's any quick ones that we can do before the poll. Here's a nice, quick, easy one from Caroline. If someone clocks in early before shift, can you alter? Yes, absolutely. That's just a matter of editing the timesheet, which you have full control of as a supervisor or above. On the timesheet section, you can manually change the start time. That's a nice, easy one. Can you send us the recording? Yes, absolutely. Everyone will get a link to the recording within the next 7 days, because we like to make sure that we cover off all the Q&A now as well to add to it. So is that one done? Josephine says, thank you, Gary. No, thank you. Good question there. Thank you for joining us. Caroline says, can we do a training on timesheets? I dare say that will be coming up again later in the year, but we do actually already have a previous webinar where time and attendance is covered pretty thoroughly. So make sure you check out deputy.com/training and head to the training library, because we have a whole previous webinars section that you can dive into and get lost in, and probably you've got hours of content there should you need it. I'm just seeing if there's any more very quick ones before we do the poll. We've got 5 minutes. Kevin asks, if someone forgets to clock in, we're going into time and attendance now, guys. Come on, this is scheduling. If someone forgets to clock in, what is the best way to alter their clocking in time? Well, I mean, like I just said, you can affect it on the timesheets tab on the approved section of that if you want to do it manually. But if you want it to be done in some automated way, like if someone forgets to clock in, you can actually have these things roll back automatically, or you can send out reminders after a certain amount of time after the shift ends that the person has forgotten. You can get them to have a push notification sent. All of that stuff is set up, and as highly recommended by Chris, to just then in the locations and edit settings section. I know it doesn't look like the most interesting area to be sort of trawling through, but that's really where a lot of the power and automation of Deputy is to really make it personalized and bespoke to the way that you have your rules and things for your staff. So all of those can be set in locations settings. Okay, I think there are a few more, but just for time, I'll cover these afterwards. So I'll either reach out to you individually or I'll put these all together in a Q&A afterwards. But right now, we would absolutely love your feedback. And we just have a couple of questions I'm going to launch. So please do just take 20 seconds to answer these for us. It really helps with improving our webinars going forward. So you may not be able to see everyone else's answers, but please do add into the poll there your responses, and that will be really helpful. And I'll just give say 60 seconds just for everyone to add their answers.
All right, we've got so many answers streaming in. I'm really excited. Thanks for answering, guys. Let's try to get to 100%.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. This is so insightful and so helpful because obviously, we just want to make this training as valuable as we can. Really, we want to do more, and we want to just help you. And everybody has so many individual and really specific to your own business questions. It's a challenge to be sort of generic and helpful to everybody, but also make sure that you all get your own specific help that you need as well. So we do try as much as we can, and answering these polls just helps us get closer to that goal of helping more and more. So thank you so much. We've got 87% people who have voted, so
that's pretty awesome, I would say. Can we get to 90?
Can we get to 90? Come on, we like round numbers. We're OCD like that. Come on, guys. Whoever hasn't answered their poll, maybe they've left their Zoom window open and they've gone to make a cup of tea or something.
That sounds pretty good. Ooh, I think just a few more.
88%.
We're almost there, guys.
That one person had their volume on loud and they ran back from the kitchen.
They've come back from making their food. All right. Well, okay. Gary, I think that's a good round number, 88%. And I think that's as high as we're going to get, unless a few more people want to answer questions. We got Sydney.
Come on.
Amazing, guys. Thank you so much. Well, I'd just like to say, thank you so much for attending, guys. I hope you found this helpful. And that you've left with a better understanding of deputy scheduling function. So as always, we have tons of great training videos and past webinars in our deputy training portal. Once we circulate this deck and the webinar link, you'll be able to click on that, or the link is pretty straightforward. It's deputy.com/training. And so, yeah, thank you so much for your time, blocking it out of your day to join us. We will be sharing that recording and the copy of this deck as well, just so you have it for reference and you can watch it back. But yeah, I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure.
100%. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.